The astronauts who almost drowned in space. Yeah, astronauts almost drowned in space. Not metaphorically, not they ran out of oxygen, not the capsule depressurized. They almost drowned because of water, which already feels wrong because space has famously done a very good job of not having water just floating around trying to kill people.
Space is ruined.
And yet here we are. So, this is Andy Explains Nothing. Cool stories that I found on the internet, so you know they're probably true. Today we're talking about the time NASA sent astronauts into space wearing some of the most advanced life support equipment ever built, spent billions of dollars designing suits meant to survive the vacuum of space, radiation, extreme temperatures, micrometeoroids, and then almost drown an astronaut inside his own helmet.
That's not supposed to happen.
Not because space is dangerous, but because water went rogue. Let's get something straight up front. Space is not a friendly environment.
Because space is scary?
There's no air. There's no pressure. There's radiation everywhere. Temperatures swing from boil instantly to freeze solid, depending on whether the sun's looking at you or not.
Stop looking at me!
So when astronauts go outside of the spacecraft during what's called an EVA or spacewalk, they're not just wearing clothes. They're wearing a tiny personal spaceship.
Spacesuit up, Ted.
The suit provides oxygen, removes carbon dioxide, regulates the temperature, supplies water, protects against radiation, keeps your blood from boiling, and somehow still lets you bend your fingers enough to turn bolts, which is already insane. And because it's already doing all that, NASA figured, hey, let's run some water through it.
What could possibly go wrong?
Here's something people don't think about. Spacesuits, they get really hot, like really hot. You know, you're sealed inside a pressure bubble doing physical labor with electronics running while the sun is actively trying to roast you. So NASA uses a liquid cooling and ventilation garment, which is basically a suit full of tiny little tubes that circulate water around the body, pulls some of the heat away. It's actually quite brilliant.
That's brilliant.
It's efficient and it's elegant and very, very NASA.
NASA. You say NASA? Of course, NASA.
And like most elegant systems, it works perfectly until it doesn't. Enter Luca Parmitano. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. 2013, astronaut Luca Parmitano is on a routine spacewalk outside the International Space Station. Routine by astronaut standards, which means floating above the Earth at 17,000 miles an hour while repairing a $1 billion science platform. Everything's going fine.
Everything is fine.
30 minutes into the spacewalk, Luca feels something on the back of his head. It's kind of cool. Feels wet.
Why do I feel wet?
First, he assumes he's sweating, which is already not ideal, but I mean, that's manageable. Then the water spreads. It keeps spreading. The water doesn't drip. It doesn't fall because there's no gravity doing, I guess, gravity things. Instead, it pools inside his helmet. And when water pools in zero gravity, it behaves less like liquid and more like a malicious, clingy organism that has decided your face is now its new home.
This will be my new home.
So it starts covering his eyes, then his ears, then his nose. Suddenly, Luca can't see, he can't hear clearly, and he's now trying to breathe very carefully so he doesn't inhale water inside of a sealed helmet in space, which is not something they practice for.
I didn't sign up for this shit.
On Earth, if water gets in your face, gravity helps. In space, water tends to stick. It clings to surfaces, including eyeballs, including nostrils. And you can't just wipe it away because your hands are in pressurized gloves the size of small trash bags. You also can't remove your helmet because, space. So Luca's now blind, disoriented, partially deaf, and slowly drowning while floating 250 miles above Earth.
Houston, we have a problem.
And the vacuum of space is no longer the biggest threat. The water is. At first, Mission Control thinks it's condensation because engineers love optimism.
Engineers.
They've seen moisture issues before. They assume it's manageable. Luca, meanwhile, is very calmly explaining that the situation is escalating and that his helmet is filling with water, which in astronaut language translates to, "I am one bad breath away from a very quiet ending."
For the love of God, help me!
Eventually, the amount of water becomes impossible to ignore. It reaches his mouth. Now this is officially a problem. NASA, I guess rightfully so, aborts the spacewalk immediately, as if they had a choice.
No shish, Sherlock.
Luca now has to navigate back to the airlock while blind, using only touch and memory, carefully controlling his breathing so he doesn't inhale water, knowing that if he panics or loses consciousness, nobody can get to him in time. Later, he would say that this was the moment he realized how close he was to dying, not explosively and not heroically, but quietly, which is somehow worse.
That's worse! Okay.
So what went wrong? Turns out a piece of fabric inside the cooling system degraded, tiny fibers broke loose, those fibers clogged the system, water backed up, and instead of circulating through the suit like it was supposed to, it flowed into the helmet, because the system was never designed to fail that way, which is engineering's favorite sentence. Anyways, this wasn't a one-off. Smaller water issues had happened before, nothing catastrophic, nothing fatal. So the assumption was, we've seen this, it's fine, which is history's way of saying this will get worse. And of course it did. So NASA grounded spacewalks. They redesigned the suit, added some sensors to detect moisture, added absorption pads, emergency breathing devices. Yes, they added a snorkel for space.
Plus, he's got a snorkel.
Which is both hilarious and kind of deeply unsettling. This wasn't caused by recklessness or sabotage or cutting corners. It was caused by confidence, by systems that worked 99% of the time, and by assumptions that small problems would stay small. And in space, small problems do not stay small. They scale fast. So what's the bigger takeaway? We tend to imagine space as this dramatic place where danger comes from explosions and asteroids and catastrophic failures. But most real danger comes from quiet stuff, condensation, fabric fibers, water moving where it shouldn't. The astronaut didn't almost die because space is hostile. He almost died because the suit worked almost perfectly.
Obviously, I never meant for this to happen.
So in closing, astronauts didn't almost die in space because of aliens, meteors, or cosmic radiation. They almost drowned. In orbit, inside a helmet designed to keep them alive. Which is why space is terrifying. And fascinating. And why every time someone says, yeah, but what could go wrong? The answer is usually something very small. Well, this has been Andy Explains Nothing. I'll see y'all in the next one.